Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in once again to the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and to your amusement, or maybe dismay, I'm not solo this week. Give it up for the fearless producer who's back in his role, Vinny, the Godfather Santucci. Vinny, say hello to all the Delvers out there, my friend.
What's up, Delvers? In case you're wondering why me and no Mitch, we can all wonder together.
Yeah, so if for those who avidly listen to the podcast, you might remember like a month and a half ago where we gave Mitch mad props because he gave us a schedule projected out months in advance through May, when normally we don't know what his schedule is a day before the pod. Since then, I don't think he's made a single day of that schedule, has he?
No. I don't know the last time the two of us has been on the pod together, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a slim chance today, right, that he might drop in at some point, but I'm not holding my breath. But at least somebody's here. And also, hey, gotta give a shout out to the sponsor, the Golshani Lee law firm. If you need help with stuff, they're the people to go to. They're great. They even threw out some, free advice to the guys on the pod here earlier today to help out the Mitch that we were talking about. So, hit them up.
Do you want to expand on that a little bit, Alex?
No, I don't. I don't want to. I don't want to expand anything. But
but
private.
I would like to say that I believe Mitch has the same odds of showing up today as Diego Pavia has of getting drafted.
Yo, shots fired. Spoiler alert, he didn't. And we'll talk about that. So lots to talk about. NBA playoffs going on, NHL playoffs going on, NFL draft has happened, as well as some of the aftermath to the draft. One of those items being the Diego Pavia story, which we will get to. Vinny, I'll let you choose this week. What topic do we start with first? Do you want NBA, NHL, or dive right into the NFL, or is there some other obscure sport out there that you want to touch on? Vinny, you still with me, bud?
Oh. Sorry, I muted myself because I'm so good at this nowadays. But I was going to say, I think we should start with women's Paralympics curling.
All right, go for it. You'll be the expert on that subject because I have to admit I did not watch any of the women's Paralympic curling.
I have not either. I was just thinking of obscure sports that most likely exist. No shade on anybody on the Paralympics team because...
Sounds like you're throwing shade to the Paralympics. Kind of not cool, to be honest.
It did sound like that, but I was thinking of something obscure that would be very difficult to find on the telly. So, but no, let's go. I don't know. Can we do a Wheel of Destiny? Is a Wheel of Destiny a possibility to bring in early as a precursor to the fantasy draft?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you want to do a wheel to find out what sport we talk about?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Oh, I should probably share my screen so you can see the wheel, I suppose. This is going to be great radio content for those who listen to the pod. But hey, for those watching on YouTube, you get something. So there is that.
And for those who have been following us long enough, you know that the wheel is a very hot topic in the local Dungeon of Dragons football team. So, all
right, I'll put 5 topics on here. So we got NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, and other. So ready to spin that wheel?
Okay. Let's do it.
Round and round she goes. Where she stops, nobody knows.
Tick, 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 tick. There we go. NHL.
All right, so we'll straw some hockey. So we'll take it over to the NHL. Which, hey, as we go to the ESPN website, you have the Montreal Canadiens taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning live right now in a series tied up at 2. So yeah, let's go to the bracket here. Have you been watching any of the NHL playoffs, Vinny? I know you're busy being a dad and whatnot.
The only thing I've tried to catch is a little bit of the Utah-Vegas series. But to be frank, when I watch it, I don't really know what's going on. So not in a bad way. It's one of those where Utah is still such a foreign team to me that I'm like, who are these people, and where do they come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, only their second season in the league, so definitely foreign. Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think of a team like Utah, the Mammoth, which cool name by the way. There are very few teams in sports that have the singular name, like Mammoth or Cardinal, as opposed to the rest of the, Wild is another one. The fact that there's two in this is kind of impressive. Like, usually it's plural names. So, it's kind of rare, and Mammoth is definitely cool for a hockey team. But yeah, so they're in their second year, whereas the Florida Panthers, coming off back-to-back cups, not even in the playoffs. So it is kind of wild how much changeover and parity there is in hockey. So let's go through the list here of some of these series. So we'll start with the Western Conference. The Avs were a buzzsaw through the Kings. They are one of the favorites. They look unstoppable, and as you can see on screen, they won every game against the Kings. In the last game, Kings were at home facing elimination. Wasn't close. So they're going to be a tough team to beat. I think one of the best series to watch is probably the next one on the list, which I'll talk more about, Stars and Wild. So I've talked about this a little previously. The Dallas Stars, with 3 seasons with their coach, all 3 of them went to the Western Conference Finals. All 3 of them lost in the Western Conference Finals. They fired their coach, went with someone new, because they felt they had the players, they had the talent. They just had the coach that was letting them down and not the guys on the ice. Well, here they are, 1 game from elimination, as the Wild have now stolen home ice in this series. They have to win the next 2 games against the Minnesota Wild, or else they are eliminated. And the Wild are no slouches, even though they're a 3 seed. The Wild they're not a wild card, but like they are a team that is a lower seed that could very easily be seen as a team that's going to contend for the Stanley Cup, because they have some stars on that team, including some big stars from Team USA, Matt Boldy, who scored that unbelievable goal in the gold medal game, and then Quinn Hughes, not the hero that scored the game-winning goal, but his brother, who was our best player throughout the tournament, most points. So some star power there for sure. Those games have all been relatively entertaining, but the fact that the Stars are now have their backs against the wall is telling. So, Vinny, I know you haven't really watched much of it, but any thoughts on their decision to fire their coach and go with a new guy? If they end up losing here in the first round, are they going to be able to write that off as, okay, it's the first year with the new coach and we'll be back next year? Or does that mean it's a total failure because they thought the problem was the coach and now they're doing worse?
Yeah, I mean, it almost has shades of Denver Nuggets last year, right?
Yeah,
fired their coach.
But that was in season. That was like being like middle of the season though, right? The Nuggets.
I want to say there was only like a week left in the playoff. I mean,
yeah, like right at the end of the season. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So, but no, I mean, I don't know. I know coaching is obviously super important, and I get it. It's going to be a really bad look if they get knocked out in the first round. I'll just go out and say that. Sometimes I just want, like, maybe this is just the fact that you and I are Raider fans and Auburn fans. Sometimes I just feel like it's close enough, not good enough. When you're like down to the last 4 or you're down to the last 2. Let's talk about we can translate to other sports, like what happened to Sean McDermott in Buffalo. I am of the camp that I think that's a terrible decision. You took a bad team with literally Josh Allen, and you are a potential Super Bowl winner every year in a sport with a lot of parity because it's a one and done in the playoffs. So yeah, I am usually on the side of firing a coach that has brought you deep into the playoffs consistently is not a good choice. Yeah, regardless of if you think you have the team to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like you said, as a Raider fan, as an Auburn fan, like, we very rarely have coaches that get us there, and then when we fire them, it's like, why do we do that? I'm still upset about, and no one who's not a Raider fan or maybe like a Jet fan will ever understand. Like, I'm still upset that we fired Tom Cable. Now, a lot of you are like, who the hell is Tom Cable? He was an offensive line coach. They ended up making our head coach. Now, he had no business getting a head coaching job, but we're the Raiders and gave him one, and he took us to 8-8. Now, I know what you're saying, 8-8, that's 500, that's not good. Well, keep in mind, in the last 24 years, we've had 2 winning seasons. 8-8 is our 3rd best season in the last 24 years. And after he did that, we fired him, and I'm still mad about it. So
Yeah.
to fire a
Yeah.
coach that's taken a team to 3 straight Western Conference Finals and now potentially get eliminated in the first round, that is the biggest egg on face in history. And like, that coach is not going to have any trouble getting another job after that resume. What did you do at your last job? 3 seasons, 3 finals appearances. He'll be fine. But you're going to look like fools. And now you're in a situation where you can't just abandon this new coach because you sold your fan base that this new coach was the answer. But also, you can't do nothing because you told your fan base this was the answer and you're going to get bounced. So now you're probably going to have to clean some house in the office, which is not what you want to have to do if you're one of the guys who works in the office. So just a bad luck. Now look, they're not out of it by any means. You know, they've played 6 games they played 5 games so far. 2 of them have gone to overtime, with the exception of game 1 where the Wild did beat the Tar out of the Stars. Every other game has been close. They've been 2 goals or less, and a lot of times 2-goal games are really 1-goal game, and then a team pulls a goalie to try to score late and gets an open net goal, so it doesn't really count, right? So like every game in this series has been close, but here we are, Dallas on the brink of elimination. They have to win the next 2, or else they look like fools, in my opinion, for what they did.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will say I have not seen a lot of it live. But I have seen a lot of highlights. The battle for Pennsylvania seems to be extremely intriguing.
Yeah, we were gonna get an Everson Conference next, but we can jump there now and go cross.
Oh,
cross.
Sorry, I was jumping. All
right, yeah. So we'll get there. We'll get there shortly. So so next Golden Knights and Mammoth. That series is tied at 2-2. We kind of already talked about the Mammoth, their expansion team, only a couple years in the league. Golden Knights are also an expansion team, only a few years in the league. Now, granted, they've won a cup in that time, so not quite the same. But still, I mean, the fact that you've got a new team that's not only in the playoffs, but in the series, that's impressive for sure. So if you like rooting for an underdog, or you don't have a team and you want one, but you don't live near any of these cities, because I know sometimes, like a lot of times it's easy to just be a fan of the local team. Like if you don't have a local team and you're new to hockey and you're looking for a team to root for, Mammoth are brand new. If you join the bandwagon now, no one's going to think of you as a bandwagoner because they're a brand new team, right? So now's the time to sign up.
I mean, it's kind of like when the Preds finally joined the league, you know? And it was like, come on, guys, everybody in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky all hopped onto the Preds bandwagon, you know? It was a good time to be alive there for a while.
Yeah, it was, and especially with the Preds, like, because in the Southeast, like, college football's king. So, like, there weren't any other NHL teams around here. So, like, that was, if you wanted to be a hockey fan, that was your option. So, now, look, I don't know how many other, like, super close teams there are to Utah, but, like, you know, go nuts, right? But anyway, so that series is closer than people thought it was going to be, for sure. So if you want to jump on the bandwagon and root for an underdog, now's the time. And then lastly, the last series that I do want to talk about some in the West is the Oilers-Ducks series. Going in, this series we knew was going to be high scoring. These are 2 teams with great offenses and not so great defenses. And the Oilers are the team that have lost back-to-back Stanley Cups, so they're always a favorite because they're in the dance, but also they haven't been able to get the dance done. And the Ducks have been playing lights out. In fact, the Ducks had a 3-1 series lead in this one until Edmonton won the last game. So Ducks have 2 more chances to put them away, which would be huge for those of you who are fans of U.S.-based teams winning. And as you can see, high scoring and for the most part great games. 4-3, so 1-score game. 6-4, this is a 2-score game, but that 6th goal came late. This one looks like a blowout, 7-4. This was a ton of goals in the third period. It was like 3-1 going to the third period, and in the third period it was 4-3 Ducks. So like this game was crazy. This one went to overtime, and then finally the Oilers did have a blowout this last one. So again, if you want to see scoring, like if you're one of the people who's like, I like hockey, but I don't like that it's low scoring like soccer, watch this series because these guys score all the time. And now you have a team in the Oilers who do have the best player in hockey, Connor McDavid, on the brink of elimination. So you're gonna have you've got the best player in the sport on a high scoring team up against it. If you're ever gonna watch hockey, and you've got Canada versus US, like now is the time. Plus, look, let's be honest, a lot of people that listen to our podcast are based in California. The Ducks play in Anaheim. That's relatively close to you. Join that bandwagon. right? So throwing that out there.
I mean, is it what was the score? What's the score to the Ottawa game?
Which the
The
series that they lost 4-0 to the Hurricanes.
oh, sorry, the Canadians, Montreal. So, they're up 1-0. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, Canadians are kind of the last reasonable hope. Maybe the Oilers pull it out, but with Connor McDavid, if he's out, bad year to be a Canadian in hockey, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not ready to rule them out yet. I mean, they had to win 3 in a row. They won 1. Right now, they got to win 2 in a row. So I'm rooting for the Ducks big time in that series. But yeah, if you're a fan of Canadian-based teams, then you've only got 2 left in these playoffs, and your best hope is probably this one. So you need them to turn it around quickly there. All right, we'll move to the East now. Sabres and Bruins. Actually, no, we'll start at the bottom of the East because you wanted to talk Pens Flyers, and they're about to drop some puck in Game 6. So, Vinny, I'll let you talk first before I give some background on the series if you'd like.
Oh no, I mean, like I said, I am kind of just following clickbait on a whole bunch of these series as somebody who's talking about sports on a podcast. I'm sure that's exactly what people love to hear.
100%.
But no, it's just, listen, anytime you can get like a good playoff rivalry, it's kind of like, you don't even have to like baseball, but if the Yankees and the Red Sox are playing each other in the playoffs, you're like, dang, all right, this is going to be legit. Anytime you can get a good matchup like that, you can look at soccer and like the Champions League. If you get, a City versus Arsenal, or, Real Madrid and Barcelona in like the semifinals or the finals, like there is intrigue. I know it's games that you see all the time, but now all of a sudden it means more. And that's how I feel about this season, this one. And there are fights left and right. There are scrums constantly. These guys do not like each other, and let's be real. That's why we all really, really like playoff hockey, because the excitement is a whole nother level. It is probably the most entertaining playoff sport, aside from maybe NFL, because it's one and done in the NFL, so every game means a little bit more. But when a series-based sport, I don't think it gets any better than NHL.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before in the pod, so I don't want to like beat the drum too much, but it's the great thing about hockey is that it is played with much more passionate fan base, because like it's not football, basketball, a lot of these are casual sports, right? Like there are a lot of significant others, male or female, that watch things like the Super Bowl, even though they're not into football, right? They will watch big games, championship games. If you're a fan of a team, your wife or your husband, whatever, might watch their games with you on Sundays and Saturdays. Like that, they will get into the sport for you, but they're not huge fans of it. People who watch hockey are watching hockey because they love hockey, right? That, or at least the ones that are in the arena. No one is buying a ticket to a hockey playoff game for clout. Whereas you might be like, yo, I have tickets to this, Baltimore Ravens playoff game to post on my TikTok or my Insta or whatever if I want to get followers. You're not doing that for NHL. So the people there are very passionate. So you have that tight-knit, college passionate fan base atmosphere with professionals on the ice, and not just professionals when you're in the playoffs, the top teams in that sport on the ice. And it is so impressive what they can do. Like, just think about the last time you skated. Some people never have. Think about the last time you skated. Even if you never ice skated, which by the way, ice skating is harder than rollerblading. But let's assume we'll keep them together, right? Last time you skated on skates, imagine trying to do what they're doing while you were on skates. A lot of times it's hard to remember, like, all the cool things they're doing with that puck and with that stick and the speed. They're doing it on skates. They're not running. Like, that's so much harder than you think it is. It's so impressive to watch. And you mentioned rivalry. Yeah, Penguins and Flyers are in the same state. That's a rivalry. Anytime you get a rivalry game in sports, it's great. Rivalry game in the playoffs is great. And you know what else can be great, Vinny? A reverse sweep. This series started with the Flyers up 3-0, and the Penguins have won the last 2 games. If the Penguins can win today and force a Game 7 and have a reverse sweep on the line, oh, chef's kiss. Not to mention, who knows how much longer Crosby's going to play. Could this be his swan song? I mean, there's a lot more riding on this Flyers-Pen series than you might think.
Yeah. I'll while you I'm gonna try to look up to see if anybody has ever come back from a 3-0 series lead in hockey.
All right, I'll let you take a look, and I'll yap some more doing that. So, you know, you have to imagine, like, I mentioned, I think on last week's pod, that the players voted the person most likely to become a coach is Sidney Crosby, right? He's that kind of mentality, but he's also getting up there in age. I mean, full disclosure, he's younger than me. It makes me feel like an old man, but he's a pro athlete. I'm not. So, there's always you never know when it's going to be his last time. Now, he's not talking about hanging up his skates or anything, but if he goes in to a rivalry series and gets swept, he might be thinking, you know what, hey, maybe it's time for me to hang it up. If my team's not going to compete, what am I still doing this for? But if they reverse this, because, they've already won 2. If they can win 3, now this one is on the road, but they get Game 7 at home. So if they can win this one, then we're talking about a chance at him doing something special again, and who knows, he's right back in it, right? So keep an eye on this one. I'm also admittedly for the Penguins, so I obviously really want them to win. But even if I wasn't, I would still want the Penguins to win this game just to make the Game 7 interest.
In the NHL, it has happened 4 times. Most recently, 2014 by the LA Kings, who came back from a 3-0 deficit in the Western Conference quarterfinals and then ended up winning the Stanley Cup, which is pretty interesting. And ironically, one of the 4 teams that has done it is the Philadelphia Flyers in 2010. 2010. So
it hasn't been done in 12 years. Last team that did it went on to win it all. So, maybe that can happen here. So we'll move on to the next series then. Hurricanes Senators. That was a Carolina sweep. Enjoyed seeing that. I will say that series, if you liked fighting, that was the series for you, because you had Brady Tkachuk, and all he does is hit people. That is his job. He's the captain of the Senators. He was also member of Team USA. If you remember at the All-Star break last year, I think it was, during the USA, or maybe this year, the USA-Canada game, where as soon as the game started, he and his brother both got in fights with members of Team Canada. That happened a lot here. There was one sequence in Game 4, so it was the last game of the series. He was desperately trying to, and at the time, I think the score was 2-1 Hurricanes. He was desperately trying to get the Senators back into the game. He went out there, laid back-to-back absolute monster hits on Hurricanes players, so much so that some jawing started happening, some pushing started happening, and then fights broke out everywhere. 3 different guys got a penalty at once because there were so many fights happening at the same time, all sparked by him laying those hits. And to his credit, the Senators did score shortly thereafter to tie it up at 2. Now, obviously, it fell apart. Hurricanes ended up winning it 4-2, but at the time, it was a huge momentum swing, and there were a ton of fights in that game and in that series. So if you liked fighting, that was the series for you. But there will be plenty more, no worries, for sure. But yeah, it goes back to anything can happen in hockey, and that's another cool thing about it, right? You get fights can happen in football. They're wild. They happen. Like, what was it, week 1 with the guy spitting on Dak? Was that week 1 this last year, Vinny? I think the Eagles defensive tackle, was that week 1?
Yeah. At the very beginning of the game, was it Jalen Carter? Yeah,
Jalen Carter spits on Dak, gets himself ejected from the game. Like, yeah, that's a story that's interesting. But like, okay, you're ejected and they play on. Or hockey, no, you sit in the glass box for 2 minutes stewing angry about what just happened, then you get to go out there and hit somebody again. So it's pretty interesting, watching that unfold and watching people trying to get kind of like in baseball when your pitcher tries to hit somebody with a pitch because of something they did in a previous inning. It's kind of like that. You remember those receipts. You know what I mean? You want to get them back at some point, if not that game, that series, and you get to keep an eye out for that, which is always fun to watch.
Yeah. That's right. I'm pretty sure, speaking of the Flyers game, was it the Flyers? But wasn't there a game this recent playoffs where they sent like 10 people to the penalty box? It was like standing room only.
Yes, but I don't remember which game. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that definitely happened, but I don't remember which game it was.
Yeah, and they're like literally sitting on each other's laps. Flyers Penguins in Game 3, 11 players were sent to the box.
That's what, and just for context, again, for those who don't watch hockey, hockey is 5-on-5. Well, 5-on-5 and a goalie. So there's only 12 guys on the ice at once. So for 11 guys to be in the box, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So I imagine they just did a bunch. I'm assuming a lot of the people that went to the box were people from the bench when benches clear for a lot of these brawls, because if not, you would have had a one-on-none situation play out. So if surely, that all the guys that went to the box, or I do know sometimes with fights you can have like someone serve the penalty, like if it's like a team penalty, like I know like the coach can assign someone to serve that penalty. It doesn't have to be like a specific player. So, but that would have been hilarious to see a one-on-none penalty.
Technical issues, but yes, wild time.
All right, a couple last things to touch on with hockey. Lightning Canadian series going on right now. I'll be honest with you, I don't really have anything to say about this one. I have not watched much of this series. I've been invested in some of the other ones. But it is tied at 2. And again, if you're rooting for Canada, this is only 2 teams you got left in it. And they're the ones who are not currently trailing. So, maybe check them out. And if you're not rooting for Canada, then check this out so we can relax. The last couple seasons, I haven't been able to relax because the Canadian team has made it all the way to the final. It'd be nice to, be able to relax after round 1 this time. So come on, Lightning. And then finally, Sabres Bruins. I don't have anything really to say about the series, but I do have a really cool anecdote to share about something that happened in one of the games. So for those, again, I keep saying for those who don't know, I'm sorry, I don't have a better catchphrase. For those who don't know, in hockey, it is customary to always play both the U.S. national anthem and the Canadian national anthem before games. It doesn't matter if there's a Canadian team in it or not. There are so many Canadian players in the NHL, and there are often Canadian teams, and oftentimes games will also take place in Canada. For example, this Lightning Canadiens game is happening in Canada right now, whereas this Penguins Flyers game is happening in the U.S. So instead of having to, switch it up every game depending on where it's played, they just make it, hey, we're going to do the American national anthem and the Canadian national anthem every time. Well, the Sabres Bruins game, that is the Buffalo Sabres in New York, and the Boston Bruins in Boston, obviously. So those are 2 American teams. They still do the Canadian national anthem. Well, the singer goes out there and the microphone starts cutting in and out. It is not working. The crowd takes over, and the Buffalo-based crowd at a Buffalo versus Boston game sings the Canadian national anthem because the music has cut out, as has the singer's microphone. She's still trying to sing, but she's one lady, right? And I just thought that was a really cool moment. Like, jokes aside about me being anti-Canada, I just thought it was really interesting that an entire crowd of fans from one country could sing the Canadian national anthem. That is how passionate these hockey fans are, which I talked about earlier. If you were to do that at any other venue, like I'm willing to bet right now $100, Vinny, you don't know the Canadian national anthem.
No, I
don't.
So little that I didn't even know they did that at hockey games. And then when you were setting this all up, I thought you were going to say that the shining moment was that they chose to not play the Canadian national anthem.
No, it was actually a heartfelt moment for real this time, not a troll. No, I just look. It's always cool when people come together, and I just thought it was really cool of the Sabres and Bruins fans, but it was obviously mostly Sabres fans. It was in Buffalo, and to be fair, they do live relatively near a border with Canada, so they mingle a lot. But I just thought it was really neat that they picked up the slack, and I'm sure the Canadian players on the teams probably really appreciated that. So I just thought it was a really cool, special moment in sports when something kind of transcends the game like that. I thought that was pretty neat. Now, whether or not someone in Buffalo sabotaged that singer's microphone is a total other story. That's a conspiracy theory. That's Mitch's department. But I'm just giving you the feel-good vibes.
I mean, and when you say, like, relatively near the border, I mean, we're talking, like, they're basically just as close to Canada as New York City is to Jersey. So it's literally right across the river.
Yeah, it's right there.
It is on the border.
But that still wouldn't explain knowing that, like, you don't know the national anthem unless you're a hockey fan and go to a bunch of games. You know what I mean? That's because you hear it all the time.
And nor do I expect a whole bunch of Canadians to be Buffalo fans, but who knows? Maybe those people on the other side of the border there in, like, Niagara Falls are Buffalo fans and not Toronto fans. Who knows?
That's a good point. You never know. But yeah, so that is my hockey talk. So First round, you got 8 series. 2 of them are wrapped up. The 2 of the 1 seeds swept. Every other series is still going and is relatively close.
Yeah. Interestingly, now that I'm looking at a map, I also didn't know that Detroit was so close to Canada. So, of the 3 major cities that literally border Canada, we've got Seattle, Detroit, and Buffalo. We are really, we're really trying to sabotage them Canadians, aren't we, at those border cities?
Oh, you'd be surprised how much we're sabotaging them with Detroit. Here's a fun fact. Because of all of the pollution we put into the air from our auto manufacturing plants in Detroit, and due to the way the wind blows and the currents, Canada gets acid rain sometimes as a result of the pollution from our Detroit. So, props to Detroit, you're doing it right.
Props, yeah. Detroit should be like, that's probably where they should just start writing South Park from now on.
Had to throw some shade Canada's way after giving a heartfelt story. All right, that is our NHL news, at least the major NHL news that I got for you. Any last NHL thoughts before we move on to the wheel and see what's next?
No, let's go to the wheel.
All right, we'll go to the wheel and give her another spin and see what we end up on this time.
Anything but MLB.
Well, you got your wish. It's other. So this is any other sports-related topics that are not associated with NFL, NBA, or MLB, and obviously hockey we just had. If you have any other topics that you want to discuss, I guess they're not sports-related, but you want to talk about the pod, we could do that as well. Do you have anything you want to talk about that is not related to the 3 major sports we haven't touched on yet? For example, soccer or anything of that nature. I know Mitch wanted to talk soccer, but he's not here.
You did say any topic, so do we want to discuss the different colors of infant feces?
We do not. People listen to this.
Right.
This is an audio thing.
That's right. So. Yes. Okay. I'm just kidding. Anyways. No, a couple big things. I know I hate that Mitch isn't here to discuss a game that I did not watch in PSG versus Byron, but I will say that there have been rumors, and they did just officially announce, and this is Alex's favorite not sport, that the LIV Tour is officially shutting down at the end of this season, which was the rival to the PGA Tour. So that is big news in the world of golf.
I mean, not only that, no one has been paid that plays on the LIV Tour this quarter, have they? As far as I know?
As far as I know, that is still a very strong pushing point. They have not been paid, but it was just announced an hour ago that Saudi is officially set to withdraw funding from LIV Golf at the end of this season. So interesting to see what will happen. They have spent over $5 billion since its launch.
And that whole saga is just wild. So to take people kind of back to the beginning, LIV was a golf alternative to the PGA. It was still golf, obviously, but it was going to be, different courses, different events, and obviously better pay because it's backed by Saudi Arabia, and they got all that blood oil money. So they were going to do their own tour, and a lot of big names defected from the PGA, hoping they were going to be able to play in both. PGA said no, so you can only play in one, but a lot of people defected, and they lost a lot of big names, and it got to the point where the PGA was considering declaring bankruptcy. And then, move further along, they got to the point where PGA and LIV were close to making a deal to work together, which people were kind of worried that Saudi was like buying out the PGA or whatnot because PGA was struggling so much. Then here we are a few years down the line, and somehow the David became, or Goliath became David became Goliath again, and is now about to put out LIV. Vinny, any insight on how this happened? Because it went from startup, more powerful than PGA, dying. What happened?
It was never more powerful than PGA.
More financially stable is a better way to put it. Yeah.
I would not say that I was like a pro LIV Tour person, and I think Chris will laugh based on all the conversations. Chris of Gulshani Lee, shout out to our sponsors in this moment.
Nice.
But it was more of, I think the PGA Tour had it coming, and I thought it was a good thing for someone to decide to put the players first. It was almost like a collective bargaining agreement, but that happened outside the tour, so to speak. So maybe not collective bargaining, but more like players' union. And so it was just more independence, more freedom. But it was super gimmicky and kind of a joke. But they did have some of the best players in golf. It is kind of sad, like, there's some players who went and took the money and then they were at the top of their game and kind of fell off. And so it'd almost be like taking someone in their prime in soccer from like the Premier League and sending them to Saudi or to the United States just for a lot of money. But then all the glory is gone and they just don't play as much anymore. And that's kind of what the LIV Tour did. It basically became these leagues that nobody really cares about, but there's a lot of star power in it. And so the glory was lost, but it did force the PGA Tour to kind of restructure, and then they made a lot of changes for the better as well. So, hey, it was the devil that the PGA Tour needed to get better, and now it's gone, and nobody will feel bad about it. But the reinstatement policy is like brutal for these LIV Tour players, though. So it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is for the players. It's basically catered towards, if you want to get back into the tour, you have to have been a super good player in the past, and then you also have to pay these like huge penalty fees. So it'll be interesting to see what some of these like lower profile golfers, what happens to their career.
Yeah, they basically structured it where basically if you were a big name and a big draw, they wanted you to be able to come back, but if you weren't, they wanted to be able to punish you just in a message that you shouldn't have left. And so the biggest name guys that made enough money, they'll be back. I think the other ones are going to be really up a creek, especially as we mentioned, no one has been paid this year that plays for LIV Golf. For those who don't know, today is currently April 29th. If you hadn't been paid in 4 full months, you probably wouldn't be having a good time. And now the company that hasn't paid you in 4 straight months has just announced that at the end of the year they're closing. Probably aren't expecting to get paid at all. That's how I'd feel about it. And if you're like, oh, we'll just take them to court, keep in mind that court is in Saudi Arabia. You ain't winning because the money comes from the prince. So right. He's the one not paying you. Good luck with that. So definitely an interesting story. While, yes, I'm on record, golf is a leisure activity, not a sport, it's still an interesting story, and ESPN has it on their webpage, so we may as well cover it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a very interesting story. So, and I am of the camp. I think golf is one of the more entertaining sports to watch, which is ironic for
you're wild.
Yes, I know, but it's okay. I am cultured, and you are not. So,
I mean, I don't think that's an insult. I'm not cultured, but I'm also not boring, man. You know who watches golf? Grandparents watch golf. I know, because that's the only place I ever saw golf was when I'd visit my grandparents. They'd be watching it.
Well, actually, you know what? That is some shade on Granddad, because that man was anything but boring. So,
I was saying grandparents in general. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but
generalization.
I know. But you were just saying the only time I watched it was at my grandparents, and Granddaddy was like one of the coolest dudes in the entire world as far like pickleball, like national.
Yeah,
champion.
He was. He played pickleball at a high level. He was playing sports. He wasn't playing golf.
This is a high level guy, and he likes golf. There he is. I'm on his side.
He built homes on a golf course. That's not the same as liking golf.
True. Also very true.
All right. So, anything else in the other category before we spin the wheel again?
I think there is, but I'd rather maybe we just default to football and leave the wheel out just for now, just so.
In case you got to bounce.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't gonna blatantly announce time constraints, but yes, time constraints.
No, we're good. All right. So yeah, let's go to NFL news. So obviously, the NFL draft happened. Some of you might be happy with how your team did. Some of you might be upset with how your team did. But the draft has happened. There were some good picks, a couple of surprise picks in there. And then there have been a couple stories afterwards, like the Pavio one we referenced earlier. So we'll start with, Vinny, you're a Raider fan. What are your thoughts about the Raiders draft?
I think overall, I've been trying to read a lot about some of these players. I mean, I'm happy with what I was joking today. I had a crying. My 4-month-old son has now started babbling a lot, And so I'm like, what do you talk about to somebody who doesn't talk and they're just going, right, the entire time. And so I was like, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the NFL draft? Let's talk about the Raiders and drafting Fernando Mendoza. And then I kind of had the realization that the reason it was such a good pick is who else were you going to draft? Right? There really was not a single. I mean, everybody had Jeremiah Love as the number one player on the big board. Then it was between, Styles and Bailey and these different edge players that nobody really knew which one was the best. They drafted the safest player, number one overall, who I actually think is going to be a good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be like elite. I don't think he's going to jump into that elite category, but I think he's going to have a solid NFL career, and I think solid makes you competitive. And then after that, I think the biggest steal of the draft was they got that kid out of Tennessee who was
I was going to talk about
to be a top 10 draft pick if it wasn't just for his injuries. So instead of not wasting draft capital, they get him at the first pick of the fourth round, and it's the guarantees for the contract are way low. And if he misses, who cares? And if he hits, that's another Max Crosby in the fourth round. And if there's one thing the Raiders are good at, it's drafting in the late rounds and not in the first round. So that bodes well for Alex's predictions of Mendoza is going to be garbage, but they might get a couple good players out of it.
Well, and again, I do want to preface this. My issue isn't with Mendoza; it's where he's having to be taken. Right? Mendoza is the typical player that if you draft him in the fourth round and you let him develop for a year or two behind somebody, he might be good. But that's not the situation he was put in. Most experts will tell you that this is a guy who, if he was in a different draft class, wouldn't be a first rounder. Right? We took him in the first round. It is what it is. We took a safety. That's great. We need help on defense. We took Crawford. I don't really understand the logic between taking an edge rusher after we had to sign an edge rusher because we were trading away Crosby and then we didn't trade Crosby, so we kind of have a bunch of those already. But he's an Auburn guy, so I gotta love it. The only pick, honestly, that really threw me for a loop was our third rounder center out of Texas A&M. We just paid how much money to take the Ravens center? A Pro Bowler? And now we're out here signing centers. I didn't really get that one. And yeah, this is the one that you talked about. Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. He was projected to be a top 10 draft pick. But then he got hurt. And then after he tore his ACL, and once he fixed his ACL, he had another injury. And so he really fell. And being able to pick up this guy in the fourth round, when if he is a first-round talent, as Vinny alluded to, that is a massive steal and a home run. And if he's not, it's okay because we only had to use a fourth-round pick on him. So I think this was one of the better picks of the entire draft. So overall, I'm happy with it, even though there were some picks that were questionable. I'm mainly just not happy about the one, which, hey, look, I've been upset with a number one overall pick for the last 20 years until we had two in a row that I was good with. So I'm all right with us having another one that at least this wasn't we took a random name. This was who would have gone number one to anybody, and this is just kind of how this draft was. It's not typical Raider fashion of, hey, the Raiders took a guy in the first round that we don't even know who he is because he was projected to be a fifth rounder.
Yeah, can I know that nobody's really going to care about how the Raiders draft was besides you and I. But can I just give you a little piece of let's do a little quiz on your buddy Trey Zune, the center from Texas A&M.
Okay.
He has he has played 4 full seasons at Texas A&M. His first year in 2022, how many games do you think he played at center?
Probably none. I think I think he was a left tackle for most of his career.
He played 11 games at left tackle. His second year, how many games at center?
Probably going to go with 0 again. I think he was just a center his senior year, right?
13 games at left tackle. His third year, how many games at center?
I'm going to go 0 again.
13 games at left tackle. His final year, how many games at center?
Well, I would have guessed the season, but based on this quiz, I'll say 5.
11 games at left tackle.
Okay, well then why is he listed as a center? What is
so
it?
Apparently he lacks the hand size and arm length and overall size and to play tackle, so he is more classified as a interior offensive lineman, so center/guard. But I do find it hilarious that he is categorized as a center when what is the quick math on this? 39, 2 of 50 games. So
I mean, I'll still make the argument that it is concerning that a guy who played almost his entire career at left tackle isn't considered good enough to be a tackle, and we drafted him, but maybe he'll be a good guard.
Maybe. I think that's the whole thing. Maybe he'll be a good guard. So, we fight on. But no, I think overall it was a good draft. I think some teams had good drafts. I think some teams had questionable drafts. If you're in this podcast, I think there's one, maybe you call him a co-host, that would be somewhat disappointed. But, yeah. I'm sure our sponsor's not doing too hot when he looks at what their team did.
Yeah, well, just for the sake of Chris, we'll at least talk about their first round pick, Jeremiah Love. I mean, people had him as one of the top guys coming out of the draft, but it's been talked about a lot. Like, going running back early in the draft, like, you can usually get value at running back later or in free agency. Paying running backs isn't really the way to win right now. Like, usually when you pay the running back is when it doesn't work out so great. I mean, it can, but not always. But more importantly, James Conner was their running back, and before he got hurt, he was great. So, like, you didn't super need a running back. I mean, I get that he was hurt, and maybe he'll get hurt again, but, like, I don't know. It wasn't like running back was your need, right? It wasn't like the Cardinals are out there, man, we're just a running back away from winning. Like, no, the Cardinals were actually fine on offense. They needed a defense. So the fact that you're drafting running back in the first round, little weird. I mean, no, he's the best player, but it's not like, it's not like last year when people were like, oh, well, we're gonna move up and take this two-way player because maybe he's a corner, maybe a wide receiver, he can be both for us, like, or one or the other. That debate. No, this is what he plays. It's not like, well, we drafted Jeremiah Love, but we're gonna play him at tight end. Like, no, he's running back. So, maybe he'll be good, and who knows what this means for their backfield. Like, from a fantasy standpoint, if they decide to move on from Connor and give the backfield to Love, like, yeah, that dude, draft him. But if you're a Cardinal fan, I don't know that that's great for your team improving significantly. But I don't even think that was the biggest, like, surprise pick of the first round. I think the most shocking pick of the first round, at least for me, was Ty Simpson at 13 from Alabama to the Rams.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that was where you're going with that.
Yeah. So, again, as I mentioned, and I keep trying to not talk about Mendoza, but I have to mention this to get there. People have said in a deeper quarterback class, a normal draft year, he would not be a first rounder. Well, if he wouldn't be a first rounder in another class, but he was the best one here, then Ty Simpson definitely shouldn't be a first rounder, because in another class, he definitely wouldn't go this high. Not to mention, the Rams were one of the best offenses in football last year. Matt Stafford was an absolute monster. I realized at the start of the year there were questions about whether or not he was going to retire due to injury. Clearly that was not the case. He was fine. He played like a baller, and he's still in his late 30s, which is like, oh, late 30s, that's concerning. Man, quarterbacks play into their 40s nowadays, right? Brady was 44. Rodgers was 41 last year. Phillip Rivers was a grandpa. I mean, I think you got a few more years out of Stafford if you keep playing at a high level, so maybe go get him the pieces he needs to finish that puzzle. Because if you could just get past the Seahawks, that's the only team that beats you, right? You got eliminated because you lost to the Seahawks. If you can just get past the Seahawks, and again, what happened there? Was your offense bad? No, Seahawks D is great and your offense is still fine. You need a defense as well, but you drafted a quarterback. Not only that, so I found this out after the fact. Like, they showed when this draft happened, like, it looked like Coach McVay was upset. Did you see that at all, Vinny, when that happened?
Oh, I am 1,000% convinced that this Sean McVay is still pissed off.
Yeah, so here's some stats for you. So Simpson, in his first game, he was bad. Bama lost to Florida State, who finished the season unranked. The middle of the season, he was really good. In his defense, he played really, really well in the middle of the season. Then against Georgia, he got hurt, and ever since he got hurt against Georgia, he was bad the rest of the year, including only putting up 3 points before getting hurt again against Indiana in the college football playoffs. So, and that was his only year as a starter. I keep harping that these guys that are one and dones, like, that was his only year as a starter, and we don't know what he is. Is he good? Is he bad? Whatever. He's got all the metrics as far as, like, the build and the arm strength and his ability to read the defense. All that's there, right? But the actual on-field performance is kind of hit or miss, and it's hard to say when you're injured, right? Maybe he is good, but the issue here is The coach, Sean McVay, did you know he never met with Simpson before the draft? Meaning they never had him out for an interview or a tryout. Like, he and Sean McVay never met.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The head coach never met this player. Not only that, he made the comment that he was going to be competing for the backup job. Not that not the first round pick competing to be the backup. Is that what you want when you draft a quarterback in the first round? Usually when you draft a quarterback in the top 13 picks, he's going to be your starter, right? But no. This isn't the starter. This is going to be the guy competing to be the backup. And then also, Stafford not very happy. Stafford, not as of this taping, but as of Monday, which was 3 days after Simpson got drafted, had not yet called and said anything to Simpson. Texted, called, whatever. Right? Welcome to the team, nothing. Which is typically what you do when a team, for those who don't know, when a team drafts a player that plays like on your side of the ball, your position, what have you, like you welcome them into the fold, right? If you're a corner and they draft another corner, like not if he's like to replace you, but usually it's like, hey, welcome to the squad, Rook, because it's part of a group, multiple people play that position, right? So the fact that Stafford didn't reach out. Now his wife did reach out, which meant Stafford couldn't be bothered, was too mad to do it, so the wife did it. So now you've angered your Pro Bowl quarterback with this pick. And honestly, even if you're of the opinion that, hey, we don't know how long Stafford's going to play, he's an injury-prone guy, we need to draft his replacement, I get that. This wasn't the year to make the reach, right? Because this was a reach. Last year, you almost got the guy. You almost got Jackson Dart. You got swooped because the Giants traded up one spot above you and took him, right? And that sucks, but that was at 26, right? You were fine taking a guy like Jackson Dart at 26, but you're going to take Ty Simpson at 13? Like, you're going to reach that much for him? I just think this was ownership wanting this, which, by the way, the owner is apparently friend of the families and went to Alabama and, or GM or whoever. Like, so, there's some stuff there. There's some stuff there.
Yeah, they've since come out with a lot of different stuff that said, I was reading that Sean McVay didn't want to dance on, figuratively speaking, didn't want to dance on Stafford's grave and be excited for the pick. But apparently he did want the pick. I don't know. It sure as heck doesn't seem that he wanted Ty Simpson.
No, and that's just going to make for a bad relationship because here's the thing: if you're the Rams, if you are looking to move on from Matt Stafford, you're not looking to move on from McVay, are you?
Oh, I don't know. That's actually pretty deep.
You're talking
I would
about
imagine
one of the best coaches in football, and he's young. Like, you're not looking to move on from that guy. You want him to be the one that rebuilds your team.
Hasn't McVay flirted with early retirement?
I mean, yes, but when people say that, do you really believe them?
I don't know. Maybe he's like such a Stafford homer that it's like he's just like, I'm gonna retire when.
Right, but also you put that out there to try to put pressure on the ownership to do right by the quarter, because Stafford had to renegotiate his deal 2 years ago, right? It's like maybe he was saying that to make sure Stafford got that new deal, stuff like that.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean,
it's chess, not checkers.
It was an awkward interview for sure to watch them. But yeah, no, I think that pick was definitely surprising. I didn't really think there was a ton of surprises overall. I mean, I will say it's laughable to me at how bad franchises can just continue to be bad franchises. Just as good as Love and Tate are at running back and wide receiver respectively, it's just drafting a running back at 3 overall and drafting a wide receiver at 4 overall when your teams are just absolute hot garbage. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's fine. Love is easily the best player, but running backs have the shortest lifespan, and if you're assuming that in the next 2 to 3 years the Cardinals are just turning around their team, and that's just not going to happen, So, yeah, I don't know. Just questionable decisions at the high end. I bet those teams that were drafting a little bit later were probably like, what the hell? Like, Arvell Reese fell to us, and it was like, styles felt to us, thinking like there was no way that they were going to get these players. And then on the flip.
Oh, Vinny there? Uh-oh, I think we lost Vinny. So I will start yapping and hope he comes back. Another pick I want to talk about because I don't really know where his point was going. So I will. I'll jump to another interesting pick in the first round. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. Vinny's back. Vinny there, bud?
Back, yeah. No, I was just gonna say on the flip side, you have the Saints taking Tyson at 8. Just interesting all around. Maybe just trying to prop up young quarterbacks, but
yeah,
the young quarterback they're trying to pop up in Arizona is Jacoby Brissett. Oh, sorry, Carson Beck. Oh, wait. Oh, all hot garbage. So who knows?
Yeah, no, I think I'm fine with the Tyson pick. Because they've got nobody. They have one wide receiver, and they've been talking about trading him for forever, right? So getting your young wide receiver, Shug was better last year than we thought he was going to be. So picking up a wide receiver, I'm fine with. The Colonel Tate one, yeah, like you had Calvin Ridley, and Calvin Ridley looked like a bum out there. So like, is he washed already, or was it because you don't have a scheme to throw the football, and you don't?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley has been washed since he got back from his gambling snafu. But
yeah. Anyway, while you're offline, I was talking about Mekhi Lemon being drafted by the Eagles, wide receiver, USC. With the Eagles taking a wide receiver in the first round, the writing is pretty much on the wall that they are going to be dealing A.J. Brown. However, they didn't deal him at the start of free agency. They didn't deal him before the draft for picks. So, Vinny, do you think, like most people, that this means A.J. Brown will get traded? And if so, why do you think they've waited this long to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's for sure getting traded. I don't know the nuances of it, but even since it's been released, it's all this post June 1st, and I'm pretty sure it's because it is considered the start of the new year, if I remember correctly. And I believe that when they do that, it has salary cap implications, it has contract implications. So if they trade him post June 1st, I think his cap hit is less for the Eagles.
Okay, fair enough.
That makes sense. So yeah, I think it's just all salary cap navigation and trying to do it that way. I think, and so what's interesting though is that means that there's like a backdoor deal that's basically already in place. Can you imagine wasting a first round draft pick on Mekhi Lemon and then like the Patriots like, nah, dog, we good. We actually never even wanted him in the first place. We just wanted to watch y'all burn.
Yeah, we just wanted to debate you into taking wide receiver.
Yeah, like I mean, counting your crows before your eggs before they hatch is just an interesting thing. And so yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But
and I also think an interesting question is going to be like, what does he get traded for? Because most of the time, trades in the NFL usually involve a trade for picks, right? And it's usually during the season. There's a team there's a buyer and a seller, right? The buyer is willing to give up picks to the seller because the seller's not making the playoffs, so they'll take more picks to rebuild in the draft. The buyer's giving up picks because they are making the playoffs and they want to make a run. Well, if this trade's going to be happening before the season, presumably, it's not really a buyer-seller situation because you don't know where you're going to be. And draft picks are at their least valuable right now, right after the draft, right? They're their most valuable right before, but least valuable right after because you have to wait the longest to use them. So do you think there's going to be some other decently named pieces involved in this trade? Or do you still think they'll just be draft picks and they're just going to wait?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be kind of interesting just to kind of see how it plays out. But yeah, at the same time too, it's like if you're around the league and you're like, okay, well they for sure drafted, like, are you not like it doesn't matter if you like AJ Brown or not. He might be a diva, but are you not like ready to try to see like what you can get for AJ Brown? If like you're the Raiders, for example, you have nobody in your wide receiver. Jalen Naylor is your number one wide receiver.
Please don't remind me. I finally moved on from that, and I'm on the Mendoza hate train. So, I don't want to have to jump back on the Naylor one. Neither of these two guys deserve it, by the way. But
Yeah, No, but yeah, I know. Dakota, I think I mentioned this last week, is that she just laughs at the fact that both Kirk, like the nicest, and we've talked about it, the nicest quarterback room in the entire world, like Kirk Cousins and Mendoza being Raiders are like the most anti-Raider thing in the entire world. Um, but uh, but yeah. Anyways, I have to log off on that note. I have to go and think about my fanhood as a Raider fan while cooking dinner. And, sometimes I just decide that I want to put my face in the burning oil whenever I remember that I
Hey,
have to
right
watch
now
the
we're
Raiders
full of hope
in the
after a good
football
draft, right,
season.
Vinny?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Full of hope.
That'll be
Hey,
after
go
week
Raiders.
one. After week one, you can want to put your face in
Yeah. Yeah. Call me after week one when Auburn's 0-2 and the Raiders are 0-1.
All right, buddy. Well, good having you on the pod. I'm going to keep this one rolling a little bit because there's a little more I want to talk about, but thanks for dropping in. Tell the fam I said hey.
Okay, time for some bumper music. Just kidding. I'm out of here. See ya.
Peace. All right, he's out. I'm still here. We're going to go on to the next story. Keeping it quarterbacks, he mentioned Carson Beck getting drafted by Arizona. Now, I don't know that means they think he's the quarterback of the future. I just think, hey, they needed a quarterback just in case Jacoby Brissett's not the guy. So, why not take a flyer? I'm fine with that. A more interesting team that took a quarterback is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wish there was a way to see drafts by team. Let me see if this will let me. Yeah, here we go. All right, so the Steelers took a quarterback, and the reason that they did is because Aaron Rodgers, shocking no one, hasn't made up his mind. They don't know what he's going to do. And guess what? Because they don't know what he's going to do, they went out and got a quarterback, Drew Aller, in the third round. Now, again, this is a guy who's going in the third round of a weak quarterback class, so it's not like he's a guy they expect to come in and be the first-day starter, but he's going to come in. He's going to compete with the other guys on the squad. We'll see whether or not Aaron comes back. Even if Aaron does come back, who knows how long he'll come back, so they went out and they got a quarterback. In fact, just announced either yesterday or today, the Steelers placed some kind of strange transitional tag on Aaron Rodgers where he can sign with other teams now, but if it gets to the start of training camp, he's no longer allowed to sign with anyone else this season other than the Steelers. I think is how it was phrased. Don't quote me on that. You have to look it up. I forget what it was called. I saw it earlier today, but I thought it was very interesting. Basically, they're making it where he keeps saying he doesn't know what he wants to do. Fine, we're going to move on by drafting a quarterback. But also fine, we're going to make it where if you want to go somewhere else, you've got to do that now, because once we get to training camp, you're locked up. Now, I'm not sure how that works, how the contract is structured, what have you, from the original, setup, but whatever the tag is, I just think that's interesting that he can sign with other teams if he does it now, which they know he won't want to do. He always waits till training camp. Once it gets to training camp, he can only be a Steeler. So they're basically putting him they're calling his bluff and basically putting him in a position where you either play for us or you don't play next year. And realistically speaking, at his age, with the amount of flirting with retirement he's done, if he wants to play football another year, he can't take a year off. I don't see any scenario where Aaron Rodgers takes this year off and then next year signs and plays somewhere. It's not the same situation as Phillip Rivers, who's got 12 kids at home and he just needs to get out of the house. That's not the case. So I think because of the development, it is either going to be Aaron Rodgers under helm for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, or Aaron Rodgers will finally be hanging up the cleats, as it were. So we'll see how that plays out. Rodgers, I do believe, made a comment about them drafting a quarterback without talking to him when he went on the Pat McAfee show, which that's just so typical, self-centered Rodgers. First of all, teams draft quarterbacks in late rounds all the time, even when they have a quarterback. That is what they do. You're always looking for the future guy. You take best available player. That's what smart teams do. Et cetera, et cetera. Also, you haven't committed anything to him, man. It'd be one thing if you were committed to them, under contract, ready to go, but just had worked something out where you don't have to come back until the start of training camp, because that's when you like to do it. It'd be one thing if you already had all that worked out, but you clearly don't. So yeah, don't get upset that they went out and tried to secure their future. A future which, hopefully they can, what was the joke? They don't want to go 9-8 with Mike Tomlin anymore, so now they're going to go 8-9 with Mike McCarthy. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Steelers did draft a quarterback. Rodgers had a comment on it. Steelers made a move to kind of force Rodgers' hand, as it were. Now there's always a scenario Rodgers goes out and signs with someone else before start training camp. That's just not what he does, though. So yeah, that's my news there. The last there's lots of stories, but the last story that I want to talk about around the NFL draft is the Diego Pavia one that Vinny alluded to earlier. For those who don't know who Diego Pavia is, he is the 47-year-old. Kidding. He is a 7th-year senior who played for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had kind of their only good seasons in the last 20-plus years with him at the helm. And he was a Heisman finalist. In fact, he was second in Heisman voting. He's been described as a little pit bull. Little because he's only 5'8". That's shorter than Drew Brees, who's only 5'9". And because he has an attitude on him. And he came out in the media and had a lot of choice words and a lot of comments about how the Heisman was rigged and he should have won and blah, blah, blah. Not a good look. Which, by the way, even if internally you think you're better, you had better stats, you deserved it. I mean, I've gone on record saying that I think this was one of the weakest Heisman winners ever statistically. So, look, I get maybe you feel that way, but you can't say that, especially if you're looking to get drafted. So you make that big stink. And then he goes to the draft, and lo and behold, he goes undrafted. And then he makes some more choice comments about now the draft is rigged and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you were shooting yourself in the foot. So many guys go undrafted and then immediately sign with teams on their practice squads and have a chance to make it. You hear all the time about undrafted free agents. Now, I'm not saying like there's a ton of them, but when you're a Heisman finalist, runner-up even, there's a good chance that someone will give you a shot. So the fact that you didn't get a shot after you ran your mouth off should tell you something. Keep your mouth closed, dude. You're shooting yourself in the foot. The last time there was a Heisman finalist that went undrafted was 12 years ago, so it's very rare that happens. And then when he finally was offered opportunities to go to tryouts and training camps with teams, he was offered by 2 teams, the Carolina Panthers and the Baltimore Ravens. And he's been saying this whole time he wants a chance to compete and a chance to start. Guess which offer he took? The Baltimore Ravens. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, first of all, you are not going to start for the Baltimore Ravens. That is not going to happen. You know why? Because their starter is 2-time league MVP Lamar Jackson. Even though he just had his worst year in the NFL, he was still fine as a quarterback, and you're not taking that job. The other option is the Panthers, who they have had a lot of up and downs with their quarterback, Bryce Young, who I want to point out is also a little guy, right? He's also a shorter person. There's an easy comparison there to make. If you wanted a chance to compete and win the job, that was your golden ticket. Like, yeah, the Panthers may not be as good of a team as the Ravens, but hey, they did make the playoffs last year, and you can potentially win that starting job comparatively because they're obviously okay with having a shorter quarterback. They've built a system around that. Maybe you can work into that. So I just think he shot himself in the foot with his mouth, and now he is hampering himself with his decision making. So, we'll see what happens, but I don't think the Ravens are going to sign him. Look, they've got Tyler Huntley, and Tyler Huntley is not great, but he and Lamar get along well. He and Lamar can run the same playbook. And he's already there and knows the system. Whereas the backup for the Panthers, Andy Dalton, he was never going to be their guy. Like, that was never what they wanted. Even when he came in and played well, once Bryce Young was healthy, they gave the job back to Bryce. He is an aging veteran who is just there when they need him. You could have competed in Carolina. You're not going to have an opportunity to compete in Baltimore. So I just think that he has just made a bunch of poor decisions for himself that has resulted in him not getting the opportunity that he wants. Now, and again, I will say, and this isn't to make fun of someone's height, but like 5'8's not going to cut it in the NFL when all the offensive linemen are 6'5", right? You got to be able to see over the guys blocking for you. That's just how it is, right? So I don't really think he was going to do well regardless. And for everyone who's like, oh, well, Drew Brees is only 5'9", Drew Brees is the exception, not the rule, right? For every one Drew Brees, there are 100 guys that can't do it at that level. Drew Brees had this weird way of cocking his head and looking that I don't think anyone can replicate, because even I don't understand how he did it. I don't think he even understood how he did it. That's just how he did. Like, people that have played with him have said they don't understand how he did that. But he was able to cock his head funny and see over the line, and that worked for him. But most people can't see the field that way, because when you cock your head back like that, you have limited vision, and somehow he didn't. So, yeah, I just think you reap what you sow sometimes. And another thing he did, for those who don't know, is he decided to not have representation. He wanted to make all the money himself, so he didn't get an agent. Look, yes, agents take some of your money, but they do help you. It was one thing when Lamar Jackson decided to ditch his agent and negotiate his most recent contract, because he knew he was going to get paid. He knew they wanted to sign him, and so he didn't want to give up any of the money. Now, it may not be as player-friendly, might have been more team-friendly, and maybe they snuck some stuff in there that he didn't see because he didn't have a good agent, but he wasn't at risk of not getting paid by representing himself, whereas when you're a rookie, you need to have someone advocating for you, representing for you. He didn't have that. He was only representing himself, and when you're only representing yourself and you have a reputation and an attitude of not being the nicest person, it's not great. So, yeah, that's my NFL draft news. Again, there's a lot more that happened. The draft itself takes 3 days, which is already too long, by the way. Having the draft take this is from that point my dad made, which I think is a good point. Having the draft, especially day one, only be the first round, is a real problem, because you invite people to go to New York and sit in that green room under the assumption they're going to be drafted. And like what happened this year, there was a player who did not get drafted on day one. So now he's in this really awkward situation of, well, do I go back and sit in the green room on day two, since I'm already here in New York, or do I just go home, because what if I don't get drafted on day two when it's only another couple of rounds, right? Now I'm not saying he's going to fall that far, but like Shedeur Sanders, for example, last year, like Shedeur Sanders didn't go until the 6th round, and there was a chance he could have been a first rounder, right? So like, when you have that happening, if it's all one day and you're just sitting in the green room, like, yeah, it's still frustrating, but like, hey, you're there, and eventually your ticket gets called. It really sucks to be there all day and not have your number called, and then go home, and then you wake up, you have to make the decision whether or not you want to go through that again. So I just think it'd be better for the players that you're inviting. You either need to invite less players and only invite the ones you know are going to be day one picks, or you need to have more than just the first round on day one, right? Besides, if you're going to do 3 days, why are we doing a 1-round day, a 2-round day, and a 4-round day? That didn't make sense in the first place. Do 2, 2, 3, right? Do rounds 1 and 2 day 1, 3 and 4 day 2, and then 5, 6, 7 day 3 if you want to do it that way, right? Which, I don't know. I don't get why they do it that way. I just think it could be done better. I understand they want as much pomp and circumstances around round 1 as they can, but I just think there's some things could be done better. One last thing. I do know Bills fans might have been upset at the draft because they traded down not once but twice. So after waiting and waiting and waiting, they traded down, and then they waited and waited, and they traded down. And you'll notice you don't see their icon here. They didn't end up with a first-round draft pick. So imagine being a Bills fan and watching the entire draft day 1, right? Because you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see who we draft. I know we're drafting late because we made the playoffs, but I can't see what we're going to do. We're a couple pieces short. We got our receiver in the offseason. We just need 1, 2 more pieces. We can make that run finally. Oh, we traded down. Well, that's okay. We traded down a few spots. We still got a first-round draft pick, and we picked up some stuff later. It's going to be great. And then we traded down again, and now you've watched 3 hours of television of the NFL draft, and you didn't even get to see your team pick, and you have to wait until the next day. That sucks. Because it's one thing when you go into the draft knowing, hey, we don't have a first-round draft pick, we traded it away. That's one thing. But when you think you've got one, and you have to watch the whole draft and then keep seeing them trade down, and then eventually you don't get to see a pick, that's rough. So, Yeah, sorry, Bills fans. Once again, so close, but no cigar. Kind of like your seasons. All right, that's my NFL draft talk. The only thing left on the wheel was the NBA, so we'll go to that real quick. As we talked about before, I am not a huge NBA guy. I'm not an NBA homer, not a big NBA fan in general, but I will talk about it because it's sports that is happening is worth mentioning. So let's talk about where we're at. Oklahoma City, they swept their series, no surprise there. Lakers Rockets. People thought this series was going to be a lot more contested, to be honest with you. Lakers are up 3-1, and keep in mind, that is up 3-1 without Luka Doncic and Austin Butler. Doncic is still out. He's probably going to be out for a while longer. They should be getting Butler back for these last couple of games, but the fact that they've been missing two of their three best players. I mean, they still have LeBron. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like crapping on LeBron, but they've been missing two of their three best players, and they're still leading the series 3-1. Pretty impressive that that's happening, and it makes you wonder: do they have a chance to make a run if they can get their players back? I almost, as strange as it sounds, I almost wonder if it'd be in their best interest to lose these next two games and win it in 7, just to buy more time for Luka to come back, because he's a massive difference maker. And I think if you run into the Thunder without Luka, you have no chance. With Luka, you're still a big underdog, but you got a chance when Luka's out on the floor with LeBron. So I'm curious to see what happens, because they're up 3-1 without those two guys. They get one of them back. Presumably they win 4-1, right? But okay, maybe the Rockets win this game. They're at home, and Butler has to work his way back into it because he's been out. And then Game 6 they win it, back in LA, something like that, right? Okay, cool, but still makes you wonder: would it be worth going to 7? Now your players are gonna be more tired if you go to 7, but also they're not gonna get any rest before the next series anyway because the Thunder are already waiting for you. So, could go either way, but I just I think it's interesting how well they've done without Luka. If they're able to get Luka back in time for that Thunder series, that could be interesting. All right, Nuggets T-Wolves series has been pretty great. It's 3-2 now. Nuggets lead. They were the ones expected to win. They still are, but series has been pretty good, back and forth. The Spurs series, for those who listened to me last week, hope you didn't listen to much that I said, because I did give you a possible scenario where Wemby is out for a while and they don't win. Well, San Antonio's like, nah, man, we got this, and they won the next 3 games, and did end up winning that series 4-1. So there was no issues with having to wait for Wemby to come back. And in the most recent game, he had a double-double. So he is back. He's healthy. He's playing. Team won. So Spurs looking good. So the 1 seed and the 2 seed in the West both looking good. Let's move over to the East. The Pistons continue to struggle, as you're seeing that right. The Magic lead the series 3-1. Now, again, none of us really believe in the Pistons, but this is still crazy that an 8 seed is beating a 1 seed. They're up 3-1. As you can see, the game going on right now is in the third period and only 2-point difference. So Pistons back against it right now. Very interesting series, just because of the fact that it's an 8 seed dominating 1 seed, as it were. Cavs-Raptors series, that one's close. It's 2-2, and as you see, the game right now is currently currently a really close game, so could go either way there. Don't have much to say about it, other than this is a good series if you want to check it out. Knicks-Hawks series, this series has been strange. The Knicks, like we keep saying on paper, were the better team, but then the Hawks came out and gave them a fight, and the Hawks were actually up 2-1, leading the series. Then it's like the Hawks just gave up. And the last 2 games, the Knicks have pummeled them. The Knicks have looked the way they're supposed to, and the Hawks have just looked like they didn't want to be there. So we'll see if that trend continues. The Knicks, maybe they finally put it together at the right time and they're getting over that hump that we talked about. Because if they do, I think they could be a favorite out of the East. I really do. I said that at the beginning. The only reason I didn't want to pick them was because I haven't seen them do it. But if they're finally putting it together, like I said, this is a close series, but it's a 4 and a 5. this one, clearly the 1 seed isn't a real 1 as far as like how 1s should perform, because you got the 8 seed going. And down here, this last series, I mean, the Celtics are leading 3-2, but again, they've been dealing with some injury issues, so I think the Knicks have a chance to make a run here. So we'll see. Still a lot to watch. Unlike the West, where the ones got it done. Excuse me, the 1 and 2 seeds got it done in 4 and 5 games. That has not been the case here. One of the 1 seed's gonna have to take it to 7 if they want to get out of their series. The 2 seed will have to take it to at least 6. So we'll see how that pans out. So yeah, if you like basketball, there's definitely some good basketball to be watched, and it will be interesting to see what teams do end up emerging from these, especially like, again, if you're looking for an underdog to root for, I'd be checking out this series for sure. Right now it's on Amazon Prime Video apparently. But yeah, that's my basketball talk. I don't really have a lot to say there. Again, I don't watch a ton of basketball. I see highlights like everyone. I know some general stories, but I don't watch a ton of it. The guy that watches the most of it out of all of us is Mitch, and unfortunately he has not been here. So I am sorry if you're looking for the pod for basketball talk. Once we get closer to the finals, I will probably keep tabs on it more. But as I've mentioned, I'm a big hockey fan. I've been watching a lot of hockey, and I just don't have time. I wouldn't have time to watch everything anyway, but I certainly don't have time when I like hockey so much more than NBA. So it is what it is. And also we had the draft this week, so that took a lot of time as well. That's all I got for today. That's my rants. Hope you enjoyed the pod. Sorry if I beat a dead horse. I know I've talked about the same subjects a couple of times over a couple of weeks. But sometimes you just have to get it off your chest, and sometimes you just gotta tell people what you feel and what you think, because that's what a podcast is. It's just a couple of guys yapping into a microphone. And last week it was just me. This week, thankfully, Vinny came and joined me. It was really nice. And for those who miss having all three of us together, or miss Mitch or Chris or whoever, hopefully we can get that going again. We want to. It's not that we don't. It's just that life happens and real life comes first. So appreciate you guys who are listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Peace.